À tous, merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate your interest in this vital issue. We are happy to share with you today some positive developments in our recruiting modernization strategy. So pleased to be here with Lieutenant General Bourgon, Cmdre Belhumeur, and Major General Malcolm. Leur travail et celui de leurs équipes a grandement contribué à faire progresser les efforts de recrutement des Forces armées canadiennes. Le recrutement, c'est notre principale priorité, mais plus important encore, c'est un effort collectif de toutes les organisations au sein du ministère. Moderniser la façon dont nous attirons, formons et intégrons les nouveaux membres au sein des Forces armées canadiennes exige en effet un effort concerté de la part de toute l'équipe. We live in a complex and volatile world. The security environment is changing rapidly, bringing new and urgent demands to the CAF, from bolstering our continental defense and defense of the Arctic to maintaining our leadership in NATO operations, to ensuring a persistent presence in the Indo-Pacific and growing demand at homes in terms of response to natural disasters and support to government authorities. So as the environment changes, so does the CAF. Our focus is transformation and mobilization are the two key words that I use to describe the approach that we have at the moment. Since day one, as Chief of Defense Staff, I've been clear, recruitment is my number one priority. Les outils et les stratégies ne sont d'aucune utilité sans notre personnel et les Forces armées canadiennes comptent parmi les meilleurs militaires au monde. Il nous en faut seulement davantage. Notre capacité à défendre le Canada et à relever les défis changeants en matière de sécurité aujourd'hui comme à l'avenir repose sur la reconstitution et le renforcement de nos rangs. Right now, we are focused on restoring our regular force to our authorized strength of 71,500 and our reserve force to 30,000 members. But we are also planning for the future, and under Reconstitution 2.0, we are setting conditions to grow beyond that number, to be ready for whatever the future holds. Nous avons réalisé des progrès considérables durant la dernière année. Nous avons mis en œuvre plusieurs changements. Nous avons éliminé des obstacles, simplifié des processus et optimisé nos systèmes, et ces efforts portent déjà leurs fruits. Nos chiffres de recrutement sont à la hausse et en date d'aujourd'hui, nous avons maintenant atteint 80% de notre cible, une amélioration considérable par rapport aux années précédentes. Of course, modernization means more than just changing how we recruit, but it also means changing who we recruit. The fact is that what's being asked of the CAF today is not the same as what was being asked of us in the past, and this trend will continue. Ce qui a fonctionné ces 30 dernières années ne fonctionnera pas nécessairement au cours des 30 prochaines. Nous devons élargir nos points de vue, nos approches et nos idées si nous comptons résoudre les problèmes complexes d'aujourd'hui et de demain. Our effectiveness hinges on building stronger and more diverse teams. We are at our best when we tap into the full potential of Canadians. I am pleased with the strides we are taking, but there is more to do, of course. Recruitment and retention remains key to ensuring we have operationally ready, highly skilled and professional force, the professional force that Canada needs. So today's briefing will provide you with detailed updates on the progress we've made and the work ahead, and I look forward to the discussion and your questions. Merci, thank you, Miigwech.
Merci, Général Carignan. Lieutenant Général Lise Bourgon, Military Personnel Command, will now provide additional insight into the recruitment strategy. La lieutenant générale Lise Bourgon, commandante du commandement du personnel militaire, apportera des précisions supplémentaires relatives à la stratégie visant la modernisation du recrutement.
Hey, good morning. Bonjour, Miigwech. In the Department of National Defense and in the Canadian Armed Forces, my job is to focus on people. People are at the core of everything that we do. They are the most important capability that we have, and they are the foundation of our readiness. Our success starts with a recruitment system that is strong, one that attracts top talent highlights the unique benefits of military service, and quickly selects and enroll new recruits. Right now, our recruiting system is not as agile as it needs to be. We were still recruiting the same way we did in the 80s and the 90s, and it's not working anymore, not with today's Canadian. Nous devons donc moderniser ce système pour rester concurrentiel dans un marché de travail hautement compétitif et nous devons évoluer pour attirer des personnes talentueuses. Nous sommes donc ici ce matin pour parler des mesures agressives que nous prenons pour y parvenir. At the root, we are questioning everything we do, and we are reinventing how we are recruiting. Now, when someone begins the recruitment process, whether in person or online, we track them and guide them through every step of the application process. Gone is the passive recruiting. We are actively engaging with recruits every step of the way. En tant qu'organisation, nous avons hissé le groupe de la génération du personnel militaire dans notre structure en raison de son importance et de notre engagement à atteindre nos cibles de recrutement. This new structure gives our recruiting and our recruit training sub-organization more resources, greater command authority, and streamlined processes. We're also strengthening our recruiting and training system by dedicating the resource needed to succeed. This means the right people and the money to get the job done. To increase the pool of recruits and reduce risk, we introduced a probationary period for new recruits last December. This allows now applicants to enroll and begin training while their administrative work is completed. During this probationary period, applicant must pass the required security clearance check, meet medical standards, and show that they live by the Canadian Armed Forces ethos and values. Those who don't meet these requirements will be released as soon as possible. It means faster in, but also a faster out. With support from the Vice Chief of Defense Staff and government partners, we are challenging outdated policies and practices to simplify security process for applicants with ties to other countries. Therefore, most applicants, included permanent resident, can begin basic training after receiving their reliability status clearance. This is the basic requirement for employment within the Canadian Government of Canada. Just recently, we have enrolled our 455th permanent resident, so great success. Nous collaborons aussi avec Immigration, Réfugiés et Citoyenneté Canada pour faciliter l'échange de renseignements, accélérer l'obtention de la citoyenneté canadienne des militaires en service et traiter plus rapidement les dossiers de transfert dans les Forces armées canadiennes de candidats qualifiés des Forces armées étrangères. We continue to modernize and improve the onboarding experience for future Canadian Armed Forces applicants. One example is a new mobile-friendly online applicant portal, which will be launched in the upcoming months. Enfin, nous allons passer d'un processus d'enrôlement sur papier à un processus numérique. Le nouveau portail sera plus axé sur la clientèle, facilitera la communication et réduira les obstacles qui causaient énormément de frustration aux candidats auparavant et en ont incité plusieurs à abandonner. To build on how we recruit and ensuring that we don't unnecessarily screen good candidates out, we are modernizing our medical standard by reviewing our military common medical standards and aligning them with our new universality of service policy. This will give us more flexibility to recognize that people with low-risk medical condition may still serve fully in the Canadian Armed Forces. Combiné à une forte campagne publicitaire dans les médias et à des initiatives d'attraction ciblées partout au Canada avec l'appui des services, ces mesures vont nous aider à atteindre et à dépasser nos objectifs en matière de recrutement. Since April 1st, 2024, we have enrolled 5,198 recruits. While this is only 80% of our goal of 6,496 that we have this year, it is higher than in the last 5 years. And we still have 6 weeks left this year. So I'm positive that we will meet our objective this year. And I know that all the new initiatives will help us improve even more in the future. Et mieux encore, nous avons dépassé certains des objectifs de recrutement axés sur l'équité en matière d'emploi qui a été établi. Right now, 26.4% of newly enrolled Canadian Armed Forces members identify as racialized Canadians. 18% are women, and 5.2% identify as Indigenous. To succeed, we must continue to tap on all Canadians from all communities who want to serve. To be clear, these changes don't mean that our work is done. My team continues to learn and transform our recruitment process so that the Canadian Armed Forces can continue its rapid growth. We constantly review, adjust, and develop policies, programs, and activities to balance the current and future needs of the CAF. I am extremely proud of the work we have done to bring these changes to future applicants, ensuring the Canadian Armed Forces remains a world-class military forces. Merci. Thank you, Megwitch.
Merci, Lieutenant-Général Bourgon. Commodore Pascal Belhumeur, Commander Military Personnel Generation Group, will now speak about the modernized recruiting processes. Le Commodore Pascal Belhumeur, commandant du groupe de la génération du personnel militaire, parlera des processus de recrutement modernisés.
Merci et bonjour. Je suis très content d'être ici aujourd'hui pour expliquer en profondeur les progrès qu'on a faits pour moderniser nos processus de recrutement dans les Forces armées canadiennes. Nous avions besoin d'embaucher les personnels plus rapidement et d'éliminer les restrictions dépassées qui, franchement, ne servaient plus nos besoins. Our efforts, whether there are changes to our policies, our processes, our training or technology, will improve our applicant conversion rates to enroll candidates more efficiently while maintaining the high standards of the Canadian Armed Forces. And our improvements are having the desired effect. For comparison purposes, last year we enrolled 4,300 personnel into the regular force, and the year before we enrolled 3,900. As you've heard, so far this fiscal year, we've already enrolled 5,198 applicants, which is a 42% increase over the same period last year. And with an additional 800 selected that are pending enrollment, we are at 90% of our recruiting goal for this year, and we're trending towards 100% goal achievement. One of the most significant steps forward was the expansion of our applicant pool, including permanent residents, which occurred in November 2022. Étant donné que 50% des résidents permanents sont admis au Canada dans le cadre de programmes d'immigrants hautes qualifiés, cela représente un important bassin de talent pour les Forces armées canadiennes. But implementing this policy change was not enough. To access this talent, we needed to make changes to our processes as well as work closely with other government departments like Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada to assess whether information gathered by IRCC can help facilitate the recruitment of permanent residents. Through this collaboration, the Canadian Armed Forces and IRCC will exchange personal information to facilitate security screening and reliability status assessments. This will allow the Canadian Armed Forces to access key data related to permanent residence application information that has already been collected by IRCC as part of their own process. By leveraging this existing data, we can reduce the administrative delays and accelerate enrollment of permanent residents while maintaining the necessary protocols. Je suis heureux de vous savoir que nous avons déjà accompli des progrès. But accessing IRCC data was not enough. Starting in October last year, changes were made to the sequencing of security screening, and they have translated into significant increases in enrollments. Candidates without high-risk foreign implications now complete an initial reliability status check before enrollment. That is to say, they are now enrolled under the same process as Canadian citizens who do not possess high-risk foreign implications. This initiative reduced processing time for 10% of Canadian citizens and 95% of permanent residents, and has led to a 2.5-fold increase in permanent resident enrollments. Prior to our security process change, in nearly 2 years between November 2022 and October 2024, despite numerous applications, we only enrolled 128 permanent residents. By contrast, we've enrolled 357 permanent residents over the last 3 months. And based on current application and conversion rates, we think that we are forecasting 100 permanent enrollments per month would be steady state, which represents about 1,200 additional enrollments per year. We started off slow with this initiative. We had 8 in October, 55 in November, 80 in December, and in the last month we've enrolled 147. Our recruiting process was also hindered by extensive pre-enrollment screening and outdated administrative procedures. Ces retards ont nui à notre capacité de convertir rapidement les postulants en recrues. We've analyzed our processes and realized that the Canadian Forces Aptitude Test was not in line with industry best practices and served as a barrier to enrollment. Instead, we've introduced a scored employment application form, or SEAF, which evaluates essential qualities of personal and organizational success, including academic results, qualifications, work experience, extracurricular activities, or other life achievements. The scored employment application form reduces the number of required in-person visits and allows applicants to complete their assessments on their own time, speeding up the application process. By doing so, applicants who have previously demonstrated certain educational success or possess desirable skills and characteristics have a faster path to enrollment while maintaining our high military standards. Et les premiers chiffres sont également encourageants. Since 1 November 2024, we're seeing applicants completing our scored employment application form at twice as the rate as our Canadian Forces Aptitude Test, which will translate into a larger applicant pool. While it's still early days for data collection, it appears to also be reducing applicant processing time by 37 days. Coming next month, we are launching a new online applicant portal. It's designed to be more applicant-centric and will allow prospective candidates a more active role in the processing of their files. It'll allow them to upload documents electronically, book appointments online, track the process of their application while reducing the number of visits to a recruiting center. This will make the application process easier, will save the applicants precious time, provide more flexibility to applicants from isolated communities, and will reduce overall processing times. The online applicant portal will be a precursor to further business process transformation as we adopt a continuous improvement approach to modernize our business processes and go from manually reactive to digitally proactive. Nous œuvrons aussi à améliorer notre capacité en matière d'instruction. Plusieurs initiatives ont été mises en œuvre dans le but de rehausser notre capacité en matière d'instruction, notamment l'amélioration du programme d'instruction, le développement de l'infrastructure et l'optimisation du calendrier. In 2023, the opening of the Delta Division at Base Borden expanded our basic training capacity beyond what we could accomplish at Canadian Forces Leadership School at Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. By early 2025, this division will double its training output, increasing annual capacity by 480 additional graduates, bringing our overall basic training capacity to above 7,000 trainees per year. Currently, we have 27 active platoons representing more than 1,700 new recruits on basic training, which is almost twice more than what we had at this time last year. We're also finding novel ways to connect with prospects and will soon have augmented reality experiences to support recruiting efforts for hard-to-fill recruiting occupations through video and multimedia contact. The collective efforts of enhanced advertising attraction activities, including increased face-to-face activities and targeted advertising, along with training efforts mentioned, and early career pay incentives are starting to accrue results. While it's early to declare success, we're excited to share that the current indicators are showing progress and we're trending towards 100% of our intake goal. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Commodore Belhumeur. Our last speaker today is Major General Scott Malcolm, the Canadian Armed Forces Surgeon General. Notre dernier invité est le Major Général Scott Malcolm, le médecin général des Forces armées canadiennes.
Bonjour, good day, Miigwech. A modernized common enrollment medical standard has the Canadian Armed Forces transitioning from a fit to a fit-to-the-task model of medical screening. In the past, applicants fell into two groups. Fit, ça veut dire le candidat n'a aucun problème de santé qui entraîne une contrainte à l'emploi pour raison médicale. Le candidat peut suivre l'instruction élémentaire en toute sécurité et satisfait aux exigences liées à l'universalité du service. Le candidat répond aux normes médicales prescrites pour le groupe professionnel militaire envisagé. And unfit, ça veut dire le candidat est jugé médicalement inapte à répondre aux exigences professionnelles des Forces armées canadiennes. Le candidat ne sera pas enrôlé dans les Forces armées canadiennes. With a modernized common enrollment medical standard, we are adding a third group, fit to the task, which means that while the applicant has medical employment limitations, for example, requires daily access to medications, those limitations do not represent a medical contraindication to attend basic training. The applicant must also meet universality of service requirements and medical standards for their desired military occupation. All medical conditions are being considered. The applicant's medical file will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis to determine medical eligibility. The applicant may or may not be enrolled. As an example, in the past, applicants with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, were automatically disqualified because of their need for daily medication. However, we have productive Canadian Armed Forces members who are diagnosed with ADHD after enrollment. The modernized common enrollment medical standard allows us to select these folks up front. In summary, each Canadian Armed Forces applicant's medical file will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis to medically assess whether any specific medical employment limitations should be considered for the respective applicant. This medical assessment will ensure that an applicant can safely attempt basic training while also meeting the medical standards for their desired military occupation and the requirements of universality of service. Ce changement apporté au processus de recrutement a déjà été mis en œuvre et s'applique désormais à l'ensemble des postulants aux Forces armées canadiennes. In conclusion, medical standards are important requirements to ensure that we have a combat-capable, operationally effective military force. By implementing a modernized common enrollment medical standard, the Canadian Armed Forces are adapting to modern medical diagnoses, practices, and treatments, while more precisely defining the medical fitness requirements for Canadian Armed Forces applicants. Furthermore, a modernized common enrollment medical standard ensures that applicants whose medical condition will not limit them from safely meeting the standards of military service are given the opportunity to proudly serve their country as a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now start with the question. Please note that there's a microphone on the side of the room. For people attending virtually, please use the raise your hand feature to ask your question. Please identify yourself and your news agency and limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Nous allons maintenant commencer à répondre aux questions. Un microphone est installé sur le côté de la salle ici. Pour les gens qui participent virtuellement, nous vous prions d'utiliser la fonction « Lever la main » pour poser votre question. Veuillez vous présenter et indiquer l'agence de presse que vous représentez et vous limiter à une question et une question de suivi. Je vous remercie. Do we have a question from the floor?
Good morning, Sarah Ritchie with the Canadian Press. I'll let you guys decide who wants to answer this one, but I'm curious to know if there's been any sort of change or bump in interest in recruitment since January 20th.
Hey, thanks for the question. So we are seeing an increase over the period of last year. So in the last month, we had about 1,000 more applicants than we did in this time last year. But it's not attributable to any specific incident that we can track so far. Certainement. Si on regarde la même période de l'année passée, on a à peu près 1000 postulants de surplus qui ont fait application pour les forces, mais ce n'est pas attribuable à date parce qu'on a aussi fait beaucoup de changements dans nos processus. On fait beaucoup plus d'avertissements pour les forces. Fait qu'on n'est pas sûr c'est pour quelle raison nécessairement.
This question's for General Carignan. The federal conservative leader says he'll change the military's culture from woke to warrior culture if he forms government. What do you make of that?
So first of all, I don't know what woke means, but what I can tell you is that for us, the ultimate goal is to build strong teams, and strong teams are built upon the foundation of trust and respect between its members. We know how to do that. So for us, this is all about creating cohesive and strong teams who can actually be deployed and conduct the difficult business of the military. So this is that we are all about, and this was not changed over the past few years, and it will not change for the foreseeable future.
Good morning, Murray Brewster with CBC. Your 2024 annual wellness survey. No, we're talking about recruiting, but retention is another important, or the flip side to growing the force. Your 2024 wellness survey shows that the main reason a lot of people are leaving the forces is because of pay and because of financial compensation. That seems to be outside of your purview at the moment, but can you respond to that?
So maybe General Bourgon can expand a little bit in more details, but overall, when we conduct surveys, we want to have a sense for what various programs we can set forward for retention, because this is also part of the reconstitution effort. There's no point recruiting if you're not retaining people. So having a good sense for how the team is a good, are the good indicators. So yes, pay often comes out, but I think if you ask most Canadians, they would also respond in similar ways. So absolutely focused on ensuring that our CAF members are recognized for sometimes a special service that they offer, so that's okay. But on the other side, we also know that the top factor for people to stay is job satisfaction, which is all the notion of the environments, the climate we create within the teams, and again, the cohesion and the trust that exists within our team. So focusing on that aspect also is all within our control, while we also work the compensation, benefit, and pay envelope at the same time.
We have two Liberal leadership candidates promising an increase in pay for the Canadian Armed Forces. Is the Canadian Armed Forces underpaid?
Again, we are always monitoring that aspect for our members. We want to make sure, for example, on the recruiting aspect, we have specialist trades who are in very much demand. We want to make sure that we offer a competitive salary. So this will be really the priority of effort in terms of what we are looking at in terms of pay. But also recognizing the environments or the special environments within which our folks are evolving, whether we're talking about sea or deployment or that. So that's always the work that's ongoing.
Good morning, Rachel Aiello at CTV News. My first question is, we've seen this surge of nationalism in the country over the last few weeks. I'm wondering, going forward, is this something that the Canadian military is looking to seize on, capitalize, try to use in future recruitment efforts?
So I think it is our job and responsibility to ensure that Canadians understand what the military offers in terms of occupation, lifestyle, and mission to which they can contribute. So this is really what the focus of our effort is about. Of course, the level of attraction is always affected by the economic environment. If there's a lot of people looking for jobs at that moment, we usually get more interest in that way. But again, we understand that we are working in a very competitive environment, and we need to set ourselves forward to ensure that Canadians are aware of the 108 different occupations that the military has to offer, along with a very honorable mission for Canadians.
Right, and in a recent interview, you had suggested that you've presented a plan to speed up Canada's defense spending. Some of the conversation in the current Liberal leadership race is that could be sped up to meet the target as early as 2027. Can it?
We can certainly accelerate, and then making sure that we can gain more momentum in terms of onboarding capabilities. So again, my job is to ensure that I convert those investments into actual military capabilities.
But do you have a date yet for how soon this could be sped up?
Well, again, it's not for me to decide. We're going to definitely respond to the demand.
Bonjour, Valérie Gamache de Radio-Canada. Je comprends, Général Carignan, que vous ne voulez pas surfer, je dirais, sur le patriotisme, mais quand même, dans les dernières années, on sentait que les forces canadiennes faisaient sa publicité en disant, bien, vous pouvez servir chez vous, vous pouvez faire une différence dans votre communauté lorsqu'il y a des catastrophes naturelles. Est-ce que là, quand vous parlez de grandes campagnes de promotion et de publicité, est-ce qu'il n'y a pas moyen est-ce que vous allez miser là-dessus, sur cette espèce de « venez défendre votre pays ».
En fait, c'est les deux, parce que la défense de notre pays, c'est ici à la maison aussi, et c'est aussi à l'étranger. C'est les deux. On sait très bien que notre géographie nous protège plus aussi bien qu'elle nous protégeait dans le passé, et qu'il faut s'organiser différemment ici sur le continent, mais aussi envers l'Arctique. On a aussi une force de réserve qui est clairement, elle est clairement en demande quand on répond justement aux désastres naturels à la maison. Et il y a énormément de fierté à faire ce travail-là aussi chez nous. Mais c'est les deux. C'est ici à la maison, dans tous les contextes pour lesquels les forces peuvent être employées, mais aussi à l'étranger.
Il y avait une inquiétude de votre prédécesseur de dire à un moment donné, on ne sera plus capable de répondre à nos engagements de l'OTAN à cause du manque de membres au sein des Forces armées canadiennes. On sent qu'il y aura peut-être davantage de demandes face à l'OTAN. On devra peut-être augmenter même notre engagement. Est-ce que, dans le plan que vous présentez aujourd'hui, vous êtes confiant qu'on pourra même augmenter notre présence face à l'OTAN?
L'OTAN a des plans qui sont clairement définis en termes là, de demande de capacité militaire. Alors, on a ça en place et tous les pays de l'OTAN travaillent à atteindre ces demandes-là. Mais clairement, c'est la raison pour laquelle le recrutement, c'est la priorité numéro 1, parce qu'on veut s'assurer qu'on a le personnel qualifié, professionnel pour répondre à ces demandes-là.
Good morning, Ashley Burke, CBC News. You mentioned that 455 permanent residents have been enrolled since that program started. How many applications did you receive?
So as far as applications go, we had about 14,000 this year who have shown, permanent residents who have shown interest in joining the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, out of those, about half of them don't complete the application process, which is still a large pool and is exactly why we need to modernize our procedures, why the online applicant portal will help make things easier, and the processes that we've put in place will help us unblock this resource, because it's quite unsatisfactory that we had so many people apply, and in a period of 2 years, only 128 of them got in. So I think we're beyond that by making these processing changes to increase our conversion rates for not just permanent residents, but also Canadian citizens who applied.
But in total, how many over those 2 years applied, not just this year, just so we can compare the numbers? I know that the first year was 21,000 applicants. This year, it sounds like it was 14,000 applicants. So out of more than 30,000, only
That's right, and that's why it was so important that we change our procedures, because we made a policy change. We decided to bring in permanent residents, but we didn't put the enablers in place in order to do that. So that's what changing the security screening process was about. That's what the links with IRCC are all about. That's what having the online applicant portal to make things easier for all applicants is about. We need to modernize our process. I fully acknowledge that, and that's what we're doing.
When it comes to the medical system, there was a pilot project last year to expand some of the different people that you would allow in with different medical conditions. Can you share what the impact of that was, and as well, when will this new system come into place? And what, other than ADHD, what other types of things would be considering allowing people? We've had people email us with peanut allergies, rare genetic disorders from when they were a baby, that have been appealing, trying to get into the forces, and with no luck when they've never had any health issues throughout their life.
Thank you very much for the question. So with respect to the pilot, it actually started in January. It was delayed in order to iron out a few more details. So it's just been started as of the 15th of January. So a bit too early right now to tell you how positive an impact it's had. But with respect to the conditions, really, any and all conditions are on the table for consideration for enrollment. In the past, as I mentioned, there was only those two groups, fit and unfit. And now with this group that's in the middle, fit to the task, we're able to accept folks with a whole host of different conditions. ADHD is a good example, asthma is another, anxiety is another, and the list goes on and on. The important thing to note with all medical conditions, there's a spectrum. So those that are on the lower end to medium spectrum are unlikely to have any challenges getting in. If you're on the far spectrum, if, for example, I use an asthmatic, if you've required to be intubated, have had hospitalizations, your condition is likely going to still be too severe in order to be enrolled in the Canadian Armed Forces at this time. But certainly this is a very important move in order to open up the pool of eligible applicants to be enrolled in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Good morning, Sam Forster, Canadian Affairs. This is for General Carignan. Does the CAF have any long-term targets, either as part of the strategic intake plan or otherwise, for how many permanent residents it will seek to enroll in the coming years?
So we don't have a specific numbers that we are aiming towards, but we are aiming towards being a representation of all Canadians within our forces. So it means we need to recruit enough diversity in the CAF to ensure that there's representation of all Canadians within the military. In terms of women, it's the same thing. We want to aim at increasing the number of women, because women represent 50% of the population of Canadians. And again, recruiting talent amongst 100% of the population, if you do the math, it's much more efficient than recruiting amongst a smaller number. So we have specific diversity numbers that we are aiming towards, because they represent the Canadian population, they represent the numbers within the Canadian population.
Sorry, specific diversity numbers, could you share those?
So, tu les sais-tu par cœur, toi?
Moi, je ne les sais pas par cœur, but again, it's about recruiting as many people as possible. So racialized Canadian women, again, it's we're trying to maximize our numbers across. We want to reach the 7,000 mark. So on invite tout le monde là, à aller au centre de recrutement s'ils ont un intérêt to serving in the military, because we need every Canadian that wants to get engaged to participate.
Perfect, thank you.
Do you have any question from online? No? Perfect. We still have time for one more question. You have a question from the floor?
Sure. Hi. Me again. General, we've been talking about the bottlenecks in recruiting and getting the force grown. You've talked about the increase in training capacity for basic training. What about specialized trades training? Because there is a bottleneck there. And do you have the capacity to be able to take in these people and effectively train them?
Yes, so I mentioned that this was an all of the CAF effort to get to where we need to be in terms of reconstituting our force and going back to our numbers. So the training part is absolutely part of that effort. So increasing the capacity for basic training, yes, but then the services are working within their own fields as well to ensure that once we have basic trained recruits, that they are ready to onboard them, to bring them to their qualification as quickly as possible and as most efficiently as possible. So each environment, like with 108 occupations, there's many pathways to bring people to their qualification level. So now the services are crafting what we call the pipeline to ensure that additional intake of personnel will be translated in qualified personnel.
And I'm just going to add on this. There's a great partnership being done with community college and other academic institutions in Canada so that we can use the civilian capacity, like just as an example in Bourgon at the cooking school, they're looking at the college that is just, and see where we can work with them so that they will take our basic qualification and we're just going to do the advanced, but there's going to need to be creativity because, you know, if we are successful in our recruit and our basic training, we're going to be sending them to the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army and Special Forces, and they will need to do that occupational training. So everyone's on board for that.
You have a goal of getting back to authorized strength of 71,500 and 30,000 for reserves. But your next term goal is roughly around 85,000 regular. So when could we possibly see you hit authorized strength? And when do you think you can possibly hit the new goal?
As fast as possible is the answer, but we are also ensuring that we anticipate and create the space to be able to onboard and train those additional personnel. We are not going to stop recruiting once we hit our target. We're going to go over and above for as long as it takes to get back to that strength. But not only that, we need to go further. Our analysis right now takes us back to full strength by April of 29. This is the goal that we have internally to get back to full strength so that we can start building those additional personnel on that. But if we can do it faster, we'll do it.
She gave me a very clear order that by the end of the fiscal year 29, we had to have reached 71.5. So pressure's on, but if everything goes well, we'll reach that.
Je vois que nous avons une question en ligne de Madame Sandrine Vieira du Devoir. Alors, on va aller avec Sandrine Vieira. Merci.
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez bien? Oui?
Absolument.
Ah, parfait, merci. Oui, merci de prendre nos questions. Je vais juste une question très rapide là, pour faire du pouce sur la question de mes collègues sur le patriotisme. Je comprends que vous dites que vous attribuez pas les chiffres à la hausse au retour du président Trump aux États-Unis, mais sans nécessairement établir de lien ou de tendance globale, je me demande quand même si vous avez vu ou entendu des témoignages de gens qui ont récemment exprimé un certain intérêt à rejoindre les forces pour ces raisons-là.
Pas de mon côté. Je ne sais pas, toi, Pascal?
Non, madame, j'ai aucun témoignage du personnel qui dit ça. Et c'est quelque chose avec le temps qu'on va être capable de regarder avec les surveys qu'on fait avec le monde quand ils font leurs applications, mais pas encore à ce moment. Certainly. So we have so far, we're not tracking anyone who's coming in saying that that's the reason that they're joined. But we do have surveys, prospect surveys. So in time, we will have better statistics because it's still early days on whether or not there's been a shift of people wanting to join and the reasons why.
And again, whatever your reason to want to serve, please go to the recruiting center and put your application in, okay?
people that were leaving the forces and that were coming in. How does the picture look now? Are there any numbers that you can share that show what it looks like?
So last year, the situation had stabilized for the first time. So the downward trend was stopped last year. So last year we finished around 250 over. That's including the attrition numbers. So this year, again, we are very encouraged by the results. So as of today, we are 1,300 over and above. So that's a net increase of 1,300 up to date. But by the end of March, the numbers will even be better. So if we grow on that steady state and more with the more ambitious targets for next year, this is why we are, encouraged again, cautiously optimistic that the 29 target is absolutely feasible.
And what is the biggest challenge that you're still facing, not hitting the 100% recruitment target?
It's very hard, and maybe Commodore Belhumeur can help with that. Recruiting and attraction is a very complex human endeavor. It's not just one process or one small change that is going to deliver results. So we have made many changes in the last fall, including at the medical level in January. So this is why we need to monitor very closely and see what the impacts or the consequences are. So right now we are trending very well. So this is why we keep monitoring and adjusting as we will see things unfold.
We have some difficulties on some of the specialized occupation, the technical occupation that we need to do better. Specific with the Navy, loin des yeux, loin du cœur, we have a Navy on the West Coast, a Navy on the East Coast. It's hard to attract people to the Navy, so there has been a focus of attraction, really looking at the occupation that our Navy. We need a Top Gun movie for the Navy so that we can bring more people interested in join our naval trades. So anyone interested for MarTech, please come. We'll give you priority at the recruiting center. Those are the occupations that we're a bit short and we need to do better.
Depuis le 20 janvier, il y a quand même eu plusieurs attaques contre l'armée canadienne de la part du nouveau président américain, notamment en disant que l'armée canadienne se fie un peu trop sur l'armée américaine pour défendre le territoire. Est-ce que l'opération d'aujourd'hui va dans cette veine-là aussi, d'envoyer un message aux Américains que l'armée canadienne, bien, elle est là, elle fait des efforts de recrutement, etc., etc. Est-ce qu'il y a un message aussi directement aux Américains?
Non, vraiment. Aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment pour informer les Canadiens sur notre posture et les effets que les changements qu'on a faits ont eus, parce qu'en fait, c'est une bonne nouvelle. En termes de collaboration américaine-canadienne au plan militaire, ça fait au-dessus de 60 ans qu'on travaille ensemble à NORAD et plus longtemps encore, là, que ce soit Deuxième Guerre mondiale ou en Afghanistan. On se connaît bien au niveau militaire et ce que tous et chacun apportent. Et franchement, partout où on va présentement, on demande plus de Canadiens. Alors, je suis pas inquiète là, en termes de qualité, mais c'est qu'il faut comprendre que ce qu'on nous a demandé de faire au cours des 30 dernières années est fondamentalement différente de ce qu'on va nous demander de faire dans le futur. Et à la base, c'est des capacités qui sont totalement différentes de ceux sur lesquels on s'est construit au cours des dernières années. Les opérations de contre-insurgence, c'est pas les mêmes capacités, les mêmes équipements que pour des conflits de grande envergure.
Est-ce que les menaces répétées d'annexion du Canada aux États-Unis, ça change la donne d'une façon ou d'une autre pour l'armée canadienne?
Pas pour nous, parce qu'entre militaires, c'est une relation qui est extrêmement stable et solide, encore une fois. Et nous, on compte sur tous et chacun, sur les habilités et les capacités qu'on apporte, et on se complète bien dans ce sens-là. The relationship that we have with our American military colleagues is very stable and very strong. We have fought together for the past 80 years plus. We have, operated over 60 years together in terms of continental defense via NORAD. I mean, we know each other very well, and we complement each other's capabilities extremely well as well. But we need to transform our military to adapt to what the threat of today and the future looks like.
Just out of curiosity, is the threat of today and the future, does that include the United States potentially wanting to annex Canada?
Well, militarily, we're not there at all. So again, we have an integrated NORAD command where the deputy commander is a Canadian with very important authorities in terms of defense of the continent and so on and so forth. So again, very, very stable relationships in terms of military collaboration.
I just want to be sure that I understand what's happening in particular when it comes to permanent residents and the information sharing with IRCC. So can you clarify, is IRCC now proactively sharing information with you about people who potentially may want to join the military? And what is the nature of the information they're sharing?
Yeah, so not at all. It's not a proactive situation. This is something that if the person who's applying would like to share, would like to have an info sharing agreement where they would happy for us to access the information that IRCC already has so they don't have to do it twice, then that's what we're trying to do. So it could be things like, it could be access to addresses where they lived in the past, names of relatives, those sorts of things that are required for the security check, but exactly the same things that we're looking to do as part of our own security screening procedures.
Thank you very much for attending. This concludes today's briefing. Voilà qui conclut la séance d'aujourd'hui. Nous vous remercions beaucoup de votre participation. Bonne journée.